could take their seats, please.
I heard that.
Thank you all for coming. I just want to say this today marks an historic moment, and I just want to soak it in for a second and let everyone know how important it is. And again, just thanks for being here. We've got some people, I think, that are milling around a little bit that are finding their way to us. So we'll let them stream on in, but in the meantime, we'll go ahead and get started. We're running a little bit behind, so don't want to run this too late for everybody. What I wanted to do at first is I wanted to kind of give everyone a little perspective about where we've been and why we're here and where we're going. And I think if you take a look back, it was only 4.5 short years ago where I got put into the role that I'm in, and we had a mission in front of us. At that point, USA Diving was a bit of a mess. Welcome. And when I say a mess, I don't mean like, it's a Saturday evening and you've had dinner and it's time to put the dishes in the dishwasher. I'm talking it was a mess. And over the course of the last 4.5 years, by virtue of a lot of hard work based upon our board of directors and myself and my staff, we've really cleaned that up quite a bit. And what we realized during this time is that the journey is only beginning. It's not behind us. We've got a long way to go, and we've got a lot of things that we want to do. And this event today is the culmination of a partnership that started out with a discussion about a vision. And it started out is just talking about what the possibility might be. Where could we go? What can we do? What does it look like? And it was through some discussions with a man who I have found to be dynamic. In fact, the first time I met him, I was impressed by his energy. I couldn't believe that this guy could sit still and do his job as a president of a college. But the reality is he's really, really good at what he does. And he was able and willing to kind of pare it down into short, digestible, here's what we can do first. Here's what we can do next. Here's what it looks like in 6 months or a year or 2 years or 5 years. And that was something that Dave and I, Dave Gascon, chairman of our board, talked about at length while we had downtime during COVID. Everybody remember that? So I was in my office. I was in my role for about, I don't think it was 3 weeks. And we were shut down. We were dead in the water. And it was kind of one of those days where I got up and I went to my computer and I started thinking, okay, what are we going to do now? Well, what we were able to do is we were able to take a look in the mirror. It gave us some downtime. It gave us the ability to stop, freeze that moment in time and go, all right, where are we at? What do we need to do? And how do we get there? We got through that very difficult period of time through a lot of really good teamwork. And at the end of that, or I guess I should say in the spring of 21, when things began to open back up again, I was introduced to Dr. Moore. Came down, we had a sit down, we talked about what the possibilities are, and never was I so impressed as that first meeting with the people here on campus and the people that I met, and the genuine interest and the integrity and the things that people stop and say and talk to you and listen to what you're going to say. Where I came from, how are you doing was just a way to get rid of you, right? Nice to see you. Oh, good to see you too. I'm sorry, I don't remember what your name is, but good to see you. Yeah, here it wasn't that way. When we sat down, we had a conversation. I think that first conversation lasted about 3 hours, something like that. And at the end of that conversation, I started thinking about, okay, this is a partnership in the works that can really work. What do we need? Where does it go? Where do we start? How do we do this? And the wheels started turning. And Dave and I couldn't stop talking for what? A week? 2 weeks? I don't even remember what it was. And when we left here, and we started with, okay, we know where we want to be. We think we know what it looks like, but we're not exactly sure. But we pretty clearly have, in Indian River State College, a prospective partner who shares vision. And I think if there's one thing that I could speak to probably more than anything else today that's more important than any of the things that come to mind in terms of logistical, what does the pool look like, where is this going to go, how many boards, it's the vision of where we want to get to. It's that vision of what does it look like 2, 3, 4 years from now when we're sitting in Los Angeles watching our divers? What do we want? What do we want them to have? What are the advantages we can give them now that help them to get to where they want to be? What are the tools, what are the resources we can give to coaches? How can we set everybody up for success rather than sitting back and watching in disappointment? And that's kind of why we're here today, because this is the stepping off point for that journey. And guys, thank you so much for being here. I'll talk more about this a little later on, but I want to bring up Dr. Moore. He's a gentleman who, as I mentioned, is a visionary. He's truly somebody who, when you listen to him talk, there's a reason for everything that he says, and there's a place that every statement he makes ends up. And I've never been as impressed with somebody as I have with him in terms of his ability to encapsulate those ideas and make them seem feasible. Please welcome Dr. Moore.
President Mashai, thank you so much. Chairman Gascon, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to be here. On behalf of our District Board of Trustees, who is represented here by Trustee Susie Karen that came to visit, welcome to our great college. I want to echo part of what Lee's comments were. He thinks he had a challenge when he took over. I had one as well. And challenge in our education space is a little bit different than USA Diving, yet they're similar. Brand. Brand sells in America. Sports brands sell in America. Performance in the playing surface or the pool or wherever it may be, it matters to Americans. You may not know this, but and I didn't know when I got here, this great college has 50 consecutive years of national championships in swimming and diving in men's category and 46 aggregate in women's. We have 3 1,000 win coaches that are at this college. 3 1,000 win coaches. Those are unparalleled in academic athletics in America, hell, in the world. And yet, you travel outside of our 4 counties and you've never heard of us. So when I got here, I had the honor to work with Dave Gascon at Auburn University when his daughter Sarah was on the USA Team Handball program, which we worked together to bring to Auburn. And so I got here and I know a guy that's in the USA family. Let me see if I can reach out to him and find out who's got a diving leadership role. So I called Dave and he picked up and I said, hey, my friend, I'm looking for somebody who's running USA Diving. Can you hook a friend up? He goes, speaking. I said, sorry? He goes, I'm the chairman of the board. And I said, you got to be kidding me. And so I invited him to come down and he and Lee came here and the friendship began. I must say something to you as an American and then as a college president. We're at a very disharmonious time in our country. Lots of noise, lots of distraction, lots of people with different beliefs of what this great country is about. But in the purest sense of the word, when a USA athlete wearing our colors performs at the highest levels in the world, that brings pride to every American. And yet, USA Diving had kind of lost its luster. It got lost in the noise, USA basketball, gymnastics, this, that, and the other. And yet, in this elegant sport, this grace and guts and glory, as you call it in your moniker, this is perfection personified. And so it needs a place to live, to breathe, to grow. So I made a commitment to Dave and Lee that I would like to invite USA Diving to be here permanently. They agreed. Their board voted to support that. The next step was to get them stabilized. And with Jason Atwell here from RTH Television, Jason had an opportunity with our college to be upstairs with us and be part of this tremendous transformation in media to streaming services. And with Jason's help, USA Diving's gone from illiquidity to liquidity. And that's a bold statement in this market today. And with this facility we're proposing to put underway here in the next few weeks with an invitation to negotiate, will be the penultimate place where USA athletes come to train, not just from our country, but also from around the world. And this will be a draw card for our community, and a very proud one at that. I think it's befitting and proper. But there's also an education component. Training of coaches, training of judges, training of the athletes, conditioning the athletes, rehabbing those athletes. Dr. Kevin Miller, a dear friend of mine, is now here with his clinical practice on this campus to make sure these athletes perform at the highest level. So we're very excited about this. In the end, I want everybody to understand this. This is not one person's ego trip or one brand's ego trip. This is an opportunity to rebrand the Treasure Coast as the place where champions are born, where the legacy begins in a freshman program and accelerates to the top of the world. We've had over a dozen Olympic athletes have come through our program, 131 Major League Baseball players drafted out of our program. Excellence grows here. And with USA Diving, we'll have an opportunity to go further. So I want to turn this back over to Mr. Mashad. I want to say thank you for the friendship. Thank you for the support of USA Diving. But more importantly, we're honored to work with you to achieve something important in America, which is establishing an American brand as a predominant brand, a brand that we carry around the world as the centerpiece of what this nation is great about, which is great people from common walks of life that achieve greatness on the national stage. Mr. Mashad?
Take a moment. So we're going to turn the time, we're going to change the agenda around a little bit. We had a very clear plan earlier, and then, of course, you know how things work. We're going to get away from that, but we're going to do the video, not now, but I'll tell you when. It'll be in a little bit, okay? I'll signal you for it, okay? Got it, thanks. Okay. One thing that is important to understand, and I think it's probably gotten lost in the mix occasionally, is that there's no substitution for good leadership. And I think that when you take a look at any organization, especially one that's been in disarray, that gets turned around and gets put back into a position where it can succeed, or at least it can stand on its own 2 feet and have the ability to succeed, because there's a whole lot of organizations out there that succeed in spite of themselves, or worse, in most cases, they fall on their faces because they just they don't know where they're going, and they don't have good leadership. And with USA Diving, I think one of the things that helped us to get to the point, one of the things that helped us to get to the point where we are today, from a position where there was words like dumpster fire used to describe USA Diving at one point, to where we are today in terms of a viable entity that can support itself, that can move forward, that can actually learn and figure out how to improve. It has to do with leadership. And so when I got hired, one of the very first things the question I asked was, okay, who is leading this charge? Who's the one that's going to be, who am I going to answer to? Who's going to give me direction? Who's going to be the voice when it comes time to make a command decision on something, because we had a whole bunch of them to make, that I'm going to be able to go to and call and say, this is something that we need to do. So, give you an example. During COVID, we had to shut down the office in Indianapolis. We did not have a choice. Financially speaking, there was no choice. We had to furlough some of our employees. We had to make really hard business decisions, and when it came time to make those decisions, that's how we kept the organization in business. And the person that I leaned on at that time for some, not just leadership, but also, some mentorship, and also occasionally, a bit of a butt chewing, was Dave Gascon. And I will tell you that this is a guy who is about as straight a shooter as you ever meet in your life. He's seen everything there is to see, but never does he lose his wonder and his amazement and his curiosity and his willingness to take a look at things from 4 different angles and help you find an answer or a solution. It's not only refreshing, there have been days where I can tell you where the reason that we are still an organization and an ongoing concern, and every other word that you can use that USOBC once used with us, is because of Dave Gascon. And I would love for him to come up and speak to y'all.
Very kind of you, thank you. And hello to all of you. It's great to see you here. We have one of the trustees here, Dr. Moore, Michael Hegeloo. I saw Michael earlier back there hiding, and part of Dr. Moore's staff who've done a tremendous job working on this project. And I'd like to express to you on behalf of the Board of Directors our gratitude for all your hard work. So thank you very much. So, speaking of the Board of Directors, we have a quorum of the Board of Directors here, and I'd like for them to stand up because I want to thank them publicly for all they do for this organization. So, ladies and gentlemen, please stand up. So I'm not going to admit to Lee that the different perspectives I have is, at my advancing age, I may get confused and can't remember what I said before. I'm not going to admit to that. Okay. So, the partnership. as Dr. Moore, and it's okay, I think, if you allow me to refer to you as Tim. When Tim called me and first broached this subject, I called Lee and I said, we're going to Indian River State College, we're going to have a conversation. And that's when it started. And so we have one of the trustees here who hired Dr. Moore. So as an aside, and he didn't put me up to it, congratulations, you guys are a bunch of geniuses, okay? Because you picked not only somebody who's academically sound, you picked someone who's a visionary, who's an entrepreneur, and he's a leader. And it's a pleasure to work with him. Now, my background is in law enforcement, so I spent 32 years with the Los Angeles Police Department. And I mentioned this to Lee once before, but I'm going to mention it to all of you. When you use the term partner to one of us that work the mean streets of a big city, you use that word with reverence. Because a partner can keep you alive, and you depend on their judgment. And that's how you make it home at night, to see your family. Partners mean everything in my profession. And I'm delighted to be your partner. We collectively are absolutely united in our commitment to you, and we hope to earn your trust. So thank you for that. Now, I want to kind of give you a feel for what we're talking about here. And I want to kind of have you think about the LA Olympics coming up. Because we just finished one in Paris. We've got one coming up in Los Angeles. I worked the '84 Olympics. It was magnificent. And I can promise you the 2028 Olympics are going to be amazing. Because that's what we do in La La Land. We do entertainment. Hollywood, or as we called it in the streets, Hollyweird. But they can entertain. They've got ideas. So earlier I was talking about a movie I saw one time that I really enjoyed. It's called The Player. It's a Robert Altman movie. I don't know if anybody here has seen that. But I wanted to paint a picture in your minds about what we're talking about here. Because I don't want anyone wandering away saying, oh, Tim Moore is putting another pool in. We are not talking about putting a pool in here. We are talking about the future of athletes, coaches, their lives, their families. We're talking about the reputation internationally of this college. We are talking something very special here, very special. So I thought, what words can I use? And I thought about Hollywood, because we're going to Hollywood. We're going to LA in 2028. And I thought there should be a theme to it. So I'm going to give you a clue how it feels like. We get the call from Tim Moore. We come down here. We listen to him. And he offers us a deal we can't refuse. Right out of The Godfather, right? So let me paint the rest of the picture. Because here's what it means. We're here. My favorite movie all time, and probably I'm speaking for some of you, is Casablanca. The greatest movie ever made. And you remember how that movie ends? I can say that to you, to the Indian River family and to the greater community. This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship, because it really is. Now, in that movie, you'll remember Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman had that love affair in Paris. And Paris may mean a lot of things to a lot of people. It did to them in that movie. To us, having just experienced Paris, it reignited something in us that we think we absolutely have to do. We owe our athletes the very best to compete against the world's best. So this weekend we're going to be here talking about how we can reignite that high performance program and give our athletes the very best attention, the timing that we need to make sure they're at their best at the moment they need to be their best against world competition. And there is severe world competition. It wasn't too many years ago we were on top of the world. And everybody else wants to win, and the countries are involved. And they have national training centers and elite coaches, and they have funding. And guess what? They've all become elite programs, and we probably have been resting on our laurels too long. So it's time to do something different. And right out of Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. They will come to Indian River State College. Elite athletes will come, coaches will come. And we promise you, we're going to bring the world to Indian River State College. And as Jason will tell you shortly, the world will watch the activities here at Indian River State College. And they will know Indian River State College internationally. So think about that. That's not a hole in the ground that we put water in. No, not by a long shot. So the reputation of this college is important to us, and we get to feature it when we're doing our thing. So I want you to imagine these young athletes. I want you to imagine the coaches and us old-timers walking into this new facility, what it's going to feel like. We're going to look at each other. We're going to be amazed by it. It's going to be that last line in the Maltese Falcon. What was that? What is that? It's the stuff that dreams are made of. Right? That's what we're offering, dreams. We're impacting lives. And this is going to go on for decades. So, speaking of dreams, last week I had the good fortune of spending 2.5 hours at a coffee shop talking to one of the finest coaches in the world. And with her was an Olympic gold medalist from the Sydney Games in 2000. And as we spoke, she talked about her dreams as a 6-year-old. She wanted to grow up to be a diver, and she wanted to win an Olympic gold medal. And 20 years later, she did. So, dreams. We're in the business of creating the opportunity for youngsters around this country to dream and dream big. And we want them to grow up thinking, someday maybe I can go dive at Indian River State College. And maybe someday they'll be good enough to win competitions in the United States. And maybe they'll dream of getting onto that top podium at the Olympic Games. So thanks to you, Dr. Moore, to your trustees, to your staff, we have a partnership that we intend to deliver that. We intend to deliver medals in the Olympic Games because of Indian River State College. Now, I don't make prognostications easily, but I'm going to leave you with this thought. And I told this to Al Michaels, the famous sportscaster, and you'll all know what I'm talking about when I say it. But on February 22nd, 1980, I walked into my office as a sergeant, soon to make lieutenant, and I made 10 people in the office, including the deputy chief, predict what was going to happen later on that afternoon in Lake Placid, New York. It was 16-1, 10-3, 12-2. Everybody picked the Soviet Union. And I went up last and I wrote USA 4, Soviet Union 3. And there was the miracle at Lake Placid that we all remember. So here's my prediction, Dr. Moore. We will have Olympic medalists coming out of this program at Indian River State College, and I expect it could happen as soon as 2028 in Los Angeles. So I want to thank you, I want to thank the trustees, and I want to thank your staff for allowing us to try to make this dream come true for future generations of divers. Thank you.
Bold words from a bold man, no doubt about it. And that's why we follow him, because he's willing to make those statements and then follow up with them and do things that make things happen. Speaking of making things happen, we've talked a little bit about what is important in terms of this facility and what we look to get out of it and what is it going to provide to athletes. Some of the things that it's going to provide are really very simple in terms of more pools, more platforms, more places to dive. But then you have to take a look at what's going to be even more important when it comes time to make a training facility in today's world. You have to be able to apply certain measuring sticks, I guess is the word that are the words that I'll use. And those are things like how do you take different angles? How do you get the ability to measure what the velocity is of somebody who comes off a springboard versus what their angular momentum is? And all of these things that, you can get yourself twisted in circles, but if you don't have the tools, if you don't have the resources to be able to record them, capture them, and measure them, you're really kind of lost. There's nothing that you can do that replaces that science that allows you to dissect and analyze what's working versus what's not working. And again, the resources and the tools to capture those things have to be embedded in a facility prior to. It has to be engineered in. It has to be thought of beforehand if you're ever going to be able to make use of those things. And one of the people who has helped us to envision what that looks like and how do we use those, I'll call them measuring sticks, even though that's probably not exactly what we're talking about. I'm going to bring the stage in just a minute, but I want to give you a little insight into what RTH has done and what Jason and his team has done for us over the last few years. We have gotten to the point now where we are good at presenting our product. We understand what it means to present the product. We know what matters in today's world in terms of what is this event going to do for us, not just from the standpoint of making money on an event, but what's it going to do to us in terms of a building block that we can take to the next level? How do we use this particular one to both attract more divers and to attract more eyeballs and to, honestly, to attract more dollars? And that's a formula that 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was, I don't think we really understood at any level at all. And I know I didn't. And when we went to talk with people about, well, we know we need to have a partner, a team that we work with that helps us to develop not just a plan for broadcasting our events, not just a plan for reaching people, but also a plan for measuring the results and then taking a look at what's working and understanding why it's working or why it's not working, and then what do we do about it. I can't speak highly enough about the job that RTH has done, and Jason Atwell in particular, and I'm going to bring him up to the stage in a minute, but I'm going to embarrass him for a second, because he also takes the time to educate people. He'll take a moment to explain to you why something works or why something doesn't work. And in fact, a couple times, he's made pretty bold predictions about things in our events. Going into the World Cup that we hosted in Fort Lauderdale last May, I don't think anybody in their right mind would have thought we would have beaten the Indianapolis 500 on their weekend in terms of viewership numbers. I certainly would never have guessed that, but we did. And Jason told me we would. He didn't tell me we beat Indianapolis. He just told me we'd get about 8 or 9, maybe 9 million views. We landed at about 8.7 million views. And I was absolutely blown away. Fell out of my chair blown away. Because I was like, how in the hell did you know that? How could you possibly predict that? But it's just part of what he does. And I'm not expecting him to come up here and share all the world's secrets with you right now, but I would love it if you'd come up and share a little bit about what your thoughts are. Give us some of your insights on where we're at, what this facility means in terms of our ability to do those things. Jason Atwell, come on up, please.
Well, I find it sort of odd because I got the same call from Tim that Dave and everybody else got, so I think we're all in the same phone book. But anyway, we're proud partners of IRSC as well as USA Diving. Our headquarters are on the 3rd floor, which you'll all see pretty soon, and we're just happy to be here. It's been quite a journey. I mean, USA Diving had taken a chance based on Dr. Moore's recommendation back in December 2021. And we went and basically saw their viewership, about 30,000 views or so for a whole event. And we are averaging almost 10 million viewers per event now, depending on what that event is. So we just went to Paris and had a lot of success there, where we've actually moved from just broadcasting USA Diving to actually integrating and engaging with the divers themselves. And Cassidy Cook won a silver, and we worked with her while we were in Paris, and actually the big joke is the stock ticker. We were sitting there and just watching her social media and her followers just build, basically with the same type of momentum as USA Diving viewership did. And the important part of that is we're actually taking the athletes, and just like we are working on the sport, we're also taking the athletes to bring new people to be fans of diving, right? There's people that are now watching diving that have never watched diving, never thought they were going to watch diving, and now they're fans of diving. And by integrating new technologies into the new facility, it will allow coaches to actually take a diver and mid-air and in live rotation will be able to analyze their jump and their dive from the tower and find where the flaws of that dive might be, so they can then work on that dive. Meanwhile, simultaneously, we'll be able to take that through our RTH platforms and our sister platform, Victory Plus, and place diving amongst the same content as Red Bull or the NHL, which we just got back from a large press conference last week in Dallas. So things like as small as junior nationals will be sitting next to the NHL team's content and being able to reach hundreds of millions of people around the world. So thank you.
Okay, lest I forget, I want to thank a few people for being here, because it sometimes is easier just to say thank you but no thank you than it is to actually get in your car or get on a plane or whatever and show up. And so Patty and Jim Miller, I would just like to say thank you so much for being here. Guys, it's wonderful to have you here. Patty is the president of USAS. Jim is a world-renowned physician who has worked on more sporting events than I could possibly list. I would not even presume to try to list them all. But thank you both for being here so much. And I know Dave wanted me to mention that to you. So I also want to impress upon you the fact that this isn't all seriousness today, and I want us to have a little bit of fun. Everybody, we're going to go upstairs and listen to some music and maybe have a beer and eat a little food and be able to talk and network a little bit here in just a minute. But I want to give you an example. I want to show you something that we were going to originally do this first and lead off with it, but I think it's important that maybe you get a view and kind of get an idea of what the energy looks like in terms of what we're putting together. Oh, sorry about that. What we're putting together and the reason that we're here and what we're doing. Can you guys cue that up for me? Take a look at the video, if you would, please.
It's time to make room for the future. Indian River State College and USA Diving are diving headfirst into tomorrow, setting the stage for high-performance athletes. This is where champions train hard, refine their skills, and prepare to win gold. With the latest in sports technology, we're fine-tuning health, precision, and performance. We're breaking boundaries, taking aquatics to new heights. By connecting health, technology, and integrated training facilities, athletes will have the resources to train harder and push their limits. Get ready for a one-of-a-kind experience with a towering platform allowing athletes to soar from heights of up to 27 meters. This facility is where gravity-defying feats meet breathtaking moments. Spectators watch from the stands, VIP lounges and hospitality centers, immersed in the thrill of the dive. The experience doesn't end there. With an adjoining hotel, retail shops, entertainment, and athlete housing, everything you need is just steps away, making this the ultimate destination for both athletes and fans alike. A perfect blend of sport, style, and spectacle. And now, with RTH TV, we're closing the gap between pool and household. Content will now be available on multiple platforms and accessible to hundreds of millions of viewers, complete with state-of-the-art replays, and 360 degrees coaching tools, bringing USA Diving to the fingertips of the world. USA Diving and Indian River State College, going higher for the win and diving into the future. The time is now.
Yeah. Right? Brings a smile on my face every time I watch it. So, on that note, we're going to do a little toast. I'd like everybody, we'll give you a second while they pass out the champagne. We're going to toast to the success and to kicking off taking this stepping off point to the next level. And then afterwards, we'll do some photos, and then we'll head upstairs and get some food. But again, I want to thank everybody for being here. I also want to impress upon you some of the things that matter most about where we're going and what happens next. This isn't going to be, that pool's not going to be ready tomorrow. And in the meantime, we got a lot of work to do. We got, we're going to go back to the drawing board, so to speak, the board. We're going to meet all day tomorrow. We got a number of different things on the plate to talk about, and I know that not the least of which is, how do we get from here to there? What's it look like? What do we do first? What are those steps? How do we implement steps? How do we make these things happen? And that's not going to be the easiest conversation in the world, and I expect it to be very productive, and I also expect there to be a lot of questions answered tomorrow. But what we need to make sure that we do is not lose sight of where we're going, and we also need to make sure that we don't get frustrated by the stepping stones that will get in our way or the speed bumps that will get in our way. And instead, we've got to focus on what the prize is, focus on the end result, make sure that we get there. I'm doing the best I can to stall when I pass these things out. I will not sing, I promise you. I would never do that to you guys. But again, what I'd like to do is just, whether you like champagne or not, please raise your glass. And let's just toast to what this moment means in our time and where we're going. And if everybody would just say, hell yeah! Cheers. Now that said, I'd like to invite a few people up and let's take some pictures. Dr. Moore, why don't you come on up here? Dave, come on up here. Who else have we got? I do not know your name, but would you join us? Yeah.
So we've begun demolishing an area out here to our east. That will be the launch point of where this construction will go on. So we're going to do a symbolic kind of tapping of the sledgehammers here on these bricks to figuratively break ground of where we're going. And this will be where the program is going to be housed here. And so I'd ask our trustee to be here as part of our representative, our leadership team, along with the chairman of the board.
Don't we see somebody in the back there also, Dr. Moore?
President Shaw, you coming over, sir?
I'm good.
Thank you, sir. All right? Good? Yep. All right, so how you want to do this? So we'll start with